Hello and happy Thursday to you. Welcome to the show. Whether you're joining me live or catching me here on replay, I'm so grateful to have you here with me. Happy Thursday to those of you joining me live. And let's dive right in today's level up discussion.
Welcome to Level Up with WinnieSun. Market update. Speed round. Award-winning financial pro. And now, get ready. I present to you Level Up with WinnieSun.
Hello, friends, and welcome to the show. I'm WinnieSun, your host, award-winning financial pro and Forbes contributor, and of course, CNBC Council member. You know, one of the goals of the show is always to keep you on top of relevant, trending business news, and today is no different. But of course, you know, you're part of this show. We are going live on about 8 different social media platforms, so don't be shy. Share your comments in the chat below or send me a direct message if you prefer. I'd love to hear from you. Of course, if this is of value, do invite your friends so they can be a part of this as well. Now, let's start with how the market closed. Unfortunately, not such good news once again. It's a triple down day. The Dow closed down 543 points. NASDAQ also down 237 points. Yows. And S&P 500 down 73 points as well. Stocks definitely took a tumble today. You know, banks, the financial sectors, we saw sell-offs across the board there. And of course, there are some key payroll data report that gives us some pause for the rest of the week. Now, you might be wondering what's happening. Of course, this week we had the Federal Reserve Chairman Jerome Powell has been in meetings in front of Congress. And so there's been talk about increasing interest rates. And of course, tomorrow there's going to be a big report called the non-farm payrolls report. Now, this is a report that people pay attention to and want to see in terms of jobless claims, like are people still working? Are people getting laid off? And is the job market still strong? So it's really interesting because you kind of don't want the job market to be too strong because that could mean that interest rates are going to go up higher because inflation's still high. But then if the job market report isn't good, that means more Americans are suffering, right? Maybe out of work or maybe have had their hours reduced. That's not good news either. So unfortunately, it's sort of like that lackluster thing. You want it to be bad, but you don't want it to be too bad. But investors are expecting tomorrow's report to be probably better than expected, which means that, well, interest rates might have to go higher than expected this month as well. So a lot of people are estimating that it could be 50 basis points is what they're looking at for the Fed interest rate hike for this month to help mitigate inflation, to try to get inflation to a healthier level, which is around 2%. Wishful thinking? I don't know, but it is what it is. You know, it is what it is. But on other news, and is this is for those of you who are watching on social media, you may have seen me share this information recently. But General Motors, amongst many other companies, by the way, many big companies are continuing to release layoff information. Now, you may have seen in the last few years, especially during the pandemic, a lot of companies had to make payroll changes, had to let some of their employees go. But a lot of those companies were, by and far, not the biggest heavyweight companies. You know, the companies such as General Motors and Apple and Google. Well, now you're seeing more of these really solid, you know, historically solid names doing pretty significant layoffs. In fact, today, General Motors announced that they're going to be offering a voluntary separation program to get this all of their US salaried employees who have at least 5 years of service. All means 100%, my friends. That's a lot of employees that are being offered a voluntary separation program. And so this includes global executives with at least 2 years of service as well. You know, you would think that General Motors is doing pretty well for some of the guys making a lot of headway with electric vehicles. Excuse me, electric vehicles should be doing pretty well, but unfortunately, I guess that's not the case. So this this is, of course, to help save costs for companies through attrition, and this it is a voluntary program. But supposedly, you know what? I've been talking too much today, but This is supposed to save the company about $1.5 billion before taxes is this year, which could result in a permanent cost savings for the company. But General Motors has previously stated that these plans could save over $2 billion over the next 2 years without any layoffs. But I guess that's not going to be the case. So we're seeing more and more companies now making these announcements of having to let employees go. Now, as you know, this also follows the news of Ford. Ford has just recently made an announcement also in February that they were going to lay off about 3,800 employees as well. So, they call it 3,800 jobs, but let's be honest. I mean, these are employees. These are people who have jobs, who are supporting families, who need to make the, take care of the bills in their households. And unfortunately, yeah, some bad news, but this is really, it's a little it's quite worrisome because we're only in the month of March and we've already had significant layoffs in 2003, like historically large layoffs. We're not talking about just Twitter and Elon Musk. We're talking so many different industries, different companies, and many of these very, very old, steady, historically, bellwethers of the stock market that people invest in. Investors invest in, but people actually work for these companies. So it'll be interesting to see what happens in the rest of 2023 because so far we've been reporting here record levels of layoffs. And we're almost making up the entire amount of layoffs in all of 2022. So yeah, it's a big deal. And I see Cross X Fighter joining us on YouTube Live. I am doing great. Yeah, really busy. And I guess talking too much today, but it is wonderful to be here with all of you. I had quite a few client meetings today, so that's probably why too. So, and other news you may have seen, I kind of like coincides with the General Motors news, I guess, is that you may have noticed that there's been a historically high level of expensive used cars. Now, if you're in the market for a car, you probably noticed this. I haven't been, so of course I found this out like many of you through financial news. But there was a recent study that came out, the Mayhem Used Car Vehicle Value Index, which tracks the wholesale prices of used vehicles at these things called dealer auctions. I don't know if you've ever been to a dealer auction. In fact, I actually went to one, a few of them when I was in college, and actually one of my first cars that I purchased myself that I earned, I bought at a dealer auction. It was, it wasn't in the best shape, but it looked nice. It had nice color, and it was like salvaged, even like they had frame damage, but it was my first car. Well, at these dealer auctions, they track this, the used car prices, and they've seen that used car prices have increased by almost 4%, about 3.7%. This is as of last month, February 2023, compared to the previous month. So used car prices keep on going higher. Now, you may remember that during the pandemic, of course, there was a quite a significant increase, almost an all-time high on used vehicles just because of supply chain issues, like because of the pandemic, part shortages, and of course, the ongoing war in Ukraine really impacted the price of used cars as well. And so interesting enough, that really hasn't fizzled out yet. Used cars are still very much very expensive. So the question some people are asking, well, should I buy a used car or should I go all in and get a new car? Now, historically, we know that used cars are really not the best use. I shouldn't say used car. Cars in general aren't the best areas to invest your money because cars should be seen as expenses, not as investments, because they generally don't increase in value. You might say, well, Jay Leno has a lot of, expensive cars that may have increased in value over time because they're collector items. But for most of us, our cars are expenses. Once you drive the car off the lot, it loses a significant amount of its value and it tends not to, have that value come back in normal circumstances. So people are asking, should I buy a new car now since used car prices are historically higher? Well, according to some experts, now might be actually a good time to consider a new car. And why is that? And they said, well, although used car prices have increased, new car prices are sort of settled down because that pandemic issue of the shortage of microchips in cars in general, that seems to have improved significantly. And so a lot of dealerships right now are currently offering incentives and discounts to track people like you back to purchasing new vehicles, including, I guess, lower interest financing. I'm not sure that it's really low interest financing because, as we talked about just shortly, interest rates are going up because of higher inflation. So it's probably not going to be a significant deal. But I will say this, if you don't need a brand new car right now, my suggestion would be to hold on the car that you have and just keep on going because you want all this to clear out. And also, if you don't need a new car and you treat your car just as a tool to get you from point A to point B, that also means you can keep more money in your pocket and potentially put that aside for those more important financial goals like retirement or, buying your first new home or things like that. So, food for thought. All right. All right. So that's the area of cars. Of course, I wanted to share that with you. But of course, we couldn't end the show without a little bit of good news. And this is good news, especially if you're in certain states. In particular, the state of California. I know many of you joining me from California. Well, I've got some great news for you. Now, if you didn't hear this already, you're going to want to write this down. The tax filing deadline for federal and state taxes has been pushed to October 17th, 2023 for residents of 44 different California counties, which were affected by recent natural disasters such as the floods and wildfires. This actually makes up a significant amount of California. So, the Internal Revenue Service, the IRS, and the California Franchise Tax Board, the FTB, just announced this extension, which is going to really give quite a bit of relief for those who have been impacted by disasters. So, give you an idea of just how many people are impacted by this, right? We're not only talking about we're talking about Los Angeles County, we're talking about Fresno County. Los Angeles County is huge. San Bernardino County, Sacramento, Napa is included. Orange County, where I'm at right now, is included as well. Santa Clara, so many different counties. If you're in California, there's a very good chance that you are included in this equation, which means you won't have to file your taxes until October. But not only that, I had to look up this, of course, for your benefit too. If you're in California, not only do you have until October to file your taxes, but get this. This should almost be a drum roll because this is such a big deal. But here's how I'll tell you this. You also have until October of this year to fund your IRA or Roth IRA for last year. That's right. So, for those of you who haven't made that contribution to an IRA or Roth IRA, you could actually put in another 6,000 if you're under the age of 50 and 7,000 if you're over the age of 50 towards your future retirement goal. So, keep that in mind because that's pretty cool. And there's some other benefits too if you're a business owner and some of the other things that you have to pay taxes on. So, I would do this. If you're looking at this, if you file your own taxes, know that it still makes sense to file on time and early if you can. It certainly doesn't hurt, right? Because you could potentially get your refund sooner, which is great news. But for those of you who are procrastinating or maybe just don't have all your tax documents ready yet, or if you have to file a K1 and you normally are going to be late anyway, well, you have a little more breathing room and you have more time to save towards retirement because you can still fund your 2022 IRA, which is awesome. And I see Elizabeth is from Cali on YouTube. Good news, right, Elizabeth? I was thinking it. I'm hoping you enjoyed that bit of news. Now, if you are working with an accountant, still recommend that you reach out to them. Just have them confirm this information for you that, in fact, you do qualify for this extension. It doesn't hurt. One simple email should do it. And hopefully, for those of you who are accountants and CPAs in California or one of these many other states that has this IRS extension, take it easy. We hope we're thinking of you. We know this is a difficult time for you and we care about you, but thank you so much for the things that you do for all of us each and every year. And with that, Thank you so much for tuning in. Thank you so much for being a part of this show. And if this information was helpful, share it with your friend. And of course, don't forget to like and subscribe so you'll be the first to know when we go live and we post a brand new video. We have so much new fun content for you coming up this year. And as a reminder, you can find full episodes of Level Up with WinnieSun on NASDAQ, Amazon Fire, Roku, Samsung, and many other places. And don't forget, my podcast, Yes Factor with WinnieSun, which can also be found wherever you tune in podcasts, including Apple Podcasts, and we are part of the LinkedIn Podcast Network. With that, be well, and I will see you again next week. Have a beautiful weekend. Take care now.